My beloved warriors have come to life. All the dead of centuries past.
It may be hard to believe, but this is a Disney movie. Far from the bright colors, bouncy musical numbers, and cuddly woodland creatures audiences were used to seeing, the 1985 film The Black Cauldron was intended to impress audiences with its technical feats, artistic direction, and gravely serious story. It almost shut down Disney's animation department for good.
We did it, sire! We did it! Oh, I mean, you. Yes, of course, you did it, sire.
Before we talk about what happened, make sure you leave us a like and consider subscribing to Nerdstalgic so you don't miss what we put out next. The behind-the-scenes tale of the Black Cauldron movie is almost as dense as the series of novels it was based on. Lloyd Alexander's 5-book series, The Chronicles of Prydain, was originally published in the mid-60s. It tells the story of Taran, a young boy destined to be a hero. As a children's series, Prydain focuses on being true to yourself, finding courage in the face of danger, and trusting that good will prevail over evil. It's a solid fantasy read with some surprisingly pensive and melancholic moments. It's exactly the type of story Disney likes to tell. So the studio picked up the rights to the series in 1971 and subsequently had one of their artists, Mel Shaw, create a few marketing images for the upcoming feature. Disney spent the next decade trying to recruit fresh-faced talent to the company by showing those images to students from the California Institute of the Arts, calling the then upcoming Black Cauldron a Snow White for the new generation. Aligning Cauldron with the cultural legacy of Snow White was certainly ambitious, and probably a little misguided. They hoped to return to the golden age of animation in both tone and scope, since they'd largely lost their way after the death of Walt Disney in 1966. The Disney executives hoped the Black Cauldron would pull them out of their slump. Of course, it wouldn't. In fact, it would throw their entire animation department into chaos for nearly 2 decades. To get the full picture of why the Black Cauldron was such a failure, we'll have to take a page out of Henwin's book and reveal all kinds of secret information. But let's start with the obvious. It's not easy to adapt 5 books into a single 80-minute movie, as explained by producer Joe Hale.
One of our problems was that there were so many characters and so much story that taking all of this material and condensing it into one story that we could put on the screen.
You might notice that Joe here seems a little tired, and for good reason. This poor man and his dead-eyed stare are emblematic of the exhausting process of making the Black Cauldron. The kicker is that, at the time, Hale was only involved in the project for 3 of the 12 years Cauldron had been in production. Before Hale's involvement, Disney wasn't even sure the movie would be released. The rights had been bought under co-founder Roy O. Disney, but he had retired. Since then, the company saw 2 more shakeups with Don Tatum and Card Walker, both trying their hand as CEO. With every change of the guard, interest in whittling down a sprawling fantasy epic into a bite-sized length waned. It was 2 of Disney's remaining 9 old men, Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas, who pushed for Cauldron to move forward. And finally, in 1978, it was slated for a 1980 release.
You better be telling the truth.
Probably not lie. Not this time.
Outside the difficulties of adaptation, Disney was hitting a different internal snag. Those new artists they hired with promises of getting to work on the Black Cauldron weren't up to the task. Or that's what the veteran animators thought. Of the over 100 people they tried out for the job, 35 stayed at Disney. Of those 35, only 16 were actually in the animation department. The long-standing employees resented the youngsters coming in to replace them. The younger animators saw the veterans as overbearing and stuck in their ways. As you can imagine, this fostered a less than productive work environment. Thankfully, it wasn't all doom and gloom in the land of Prydain. One of the 16 animators that met Disney's rigorous standards showed real promise. He was on track to become one of the company's top talents, until he left to start his own animation studio in 1979. Taking several other Disney employees with him, including 9 animators. This man was Don Bluth, and his darker, more serious animated movies would continue to be a thorn in Disney's side for years to come. Predictably, The Black Cauldron would not hit its 1980 release date. Less predictably, Disney decided to throw a wrench into the plans and change everything. Instead of trying to replicate the tone of the Golden Age movies, they wanted something teenagers would be interested in. That meant no musical numbers and no cutesy animals. The creative team was scrapped and Joe Hale was brought on. With his new teen-focused directive, Hale went in search of an edgier art style. That search led him to Tim Burton.
I really responded to his his torment and anguish and insanity.
Who had been hired out of Cal Arts in the 70s like so many young Disney artists. He and several other newcomers to the company produced some truly incredible concept art for Cauldron. Sadly, those concepts were never actualized. While Hale wanted to give the new guys a chance, this was too big of a departure from the Disney brand for the top brass. So Hale went back to the drawing board, literally. Cauldron's art style reverted to the original drawings done by Mel Shaw in 1971 to market the movie. In the meantime, another CEO shakeup occurred, with Card Walker stepping down and being replaced by Ron Miller in 1983. A slew of creatives were heaped into the project in a desperate bid to finally get Cauldron out the door. The original budget of $15 million ballooned into $44 million. A lot of blame was left at Miller's feet for sinking too much money into lost causes, and he was replaced after only a year as CEO. Michael Eisner took over in 1984 and brought Jeffrey Katzenberg along to oversee the company's animation division. One of the first things the pair did was attend an early screening of The Black Cauldron, and they did not like what they saw. Reportedly, the screening had children running out of the theater in terror, which makes sense, given that the film was supposed to be for teens.
My power cannot die. Curse you!
Katzenberg immediately went to ask for the film's outtakes so he could edit the movie himself. The team had to explain that there are no outtakes in animation, and any changes would have to be drawn by hand. Katzenberg proceeded with hand editing the film anyway, allegedly removing about 12 minutes of footage deemed too dark for Disney. A new focus was placed on the technical aspects of the production, making use of the 70mm film, state-of-the-art 6-track Dolby sound, and first-of-its-kind holographic effect that would have brought a 3D element to theaters, though that effect would never come to fruition as the team was running out of time. Less than a year later, the film was unceremoniously shoved into theaters. Cauldron made an embarrassing $21 million at the box office. The movie they managed to cobble together was about a boy, his clairvoyant pig, and his group of friends on a journey to stop an evil necromancer from raising an army of the dead that culminates in the furry sidekick character throwing himself to his death before being resurrected right at the end. Cauldron was quickly forgotten by the general public, and it left Disney floundering. With such a catastrophic financial failure in their hands, serious consideration was given to cutting the animation department altogether. The team was relocated to a warehouse in a different, cheaper city. They labored there in shame until 1989, when they were finally saved by a Little Mermaid that made $235 million worldwide and kickstarted the Disney Renaissance. The Black Cauldron was officially a stain on Disney's history. It's ranked abysmally low on fan-voted lists of the greatest Disney movies and is remembered mostly for its failings rather than its triumphs. But it was a triumph in many ways, especially considering its turbulent production. The movie is genuinely beautiful. Elmer Bernstein's score is perfectly balanced between terror and whimsy. Many of the backgrounds are reminiscent of Disney's older films, but because this movie skews dark, we also get lovingly detailed marshes, ruined forests, and dungeon interiors that are just as beautiful as any movie from the golden age of Disney animation. Voiced by John Hurt, the villainous Horned King remains one of Disney's most horrific antagonists to date. His slow, sweeping movements and skeletal features are chilling. Even his death was a terrible sight to behold. The story and main characters may be basic fantasy archetypes, but they're no less engaging than those found in earlier classic Disney films. Cauldron takes its audience on a grand and scary adventure with a unique feel they've yet to be able to recreate. It's been almost 50 years since Cauldron first went into production, and Disney is a multi-billion-dollar company no longer in danger of firing all its animators. With the modern context of Disney's obsession with remakes, it's time to give The Black Cauldron a reappraisal. But that's just what we think. We want to hear your opinion. Do you think The Black Cauldron deserves its reputation? Or is it an underrated classic? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, give us a like and subscribe to Nerdstalgic if you liked what you saw here today.